Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Catalyst Church. We're so excited to get together with you again this morning. And this past week, I found myself on Sunday. I was not able to gather with our missional family like I intended to.
Missed you.
I missed y'all too, and that was the thing. So, it's been dry here in the last couple of weeks, and so we've finally been able to get into the fields on the farm, and so I had to spend that afternoon working. And man, I was sitting in the tractor, and I was like, man,
they're having church.
I know, and eating too. And I was like, man, I'm hungry.
And we had breakfast.
Yeah, I know.
You wanted.
I know, and so I just want to say all that to say this: that I hope that if you haven't started, and I think Justin has posted a video this last week about it, I really want to encourage you to check out what God can do through something like a missional family. So if you don't have one, reach out to somebody. If you don't know who to reach out to, I mean, holler at me or Justin or Martin, or somebody that you know will get you in touch with people, because it's been such a blast. I mean, and I'm excited to get back to the church as a whole. But man, for right now, it's been awesome to just develop better relationships with people that are in the church, so that when we do go back, we're ready to serve.
The barriers that are in your head that you think, I can't open my home or I can't go into someone's home because I don't know them, the barriers get broken down when you do.
Yes.
When you do. And it's just, it's wonderful. I love it.
Yes, that's right. That's right. So let's get to worship, okay? We've got a new song this morning. It's be second one, but I think you'll like it. And man, it's some of the powerful lyrics in that. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. So.
Glory, my great reward.
trust you. I trust you.
We have is from Hillsong called No One But You. No One But You, is that right? No One But You. No One But You. And we were talking about before we started going live, and you know, some trust in chariots, some trust in horses, but I trust in the name of the Lord. And it is no one but Him. And it goes through scenarios kind of like in the verses for me, you know, and at the bottom line, it's no one but you. And so, I don't know, it's just healing for my heart today. You know, talking about fears in the first song, didn't look. It is no one but Him. And so good for where we are today, no matter what season of life you're in, that we get back to that. It heals the heart, it settles the heart, it makes the heart bold. So good. So we know that you're going to love this song.
Who can melt the hardest heart?
Yes.
Speak life into my soul. Who can spin the world around and hold me ever close?
get the opportunity to worship you, that the rocks are going to cry out and the trees are going to praise you, Lord, we get the opportunity to. And to know that it is no one but you. What an opportunity, what a blessing to be able to worship at your feet. God, we thank you for the word that you give Justin to give us today. And God, I pray that my ears are ready to hear it, my heart is ready to allow it to take root, because you are needed in this generation, in this time. And it starts with the church, God, that we go out and are filled with who you called us to be a light. And God, it starts by being in your word, by praising you. And God, that's what we're here to do, is to be in your word. God, teach me something as we make a difference in this community and our world. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. I hope that you are gathered with others in your home and you're worshiping together and you were singing loudly and just enjoying that. We need each other. And I'm so thankful for Jonathan and Marnie sharing just how important they have been, the missional family there in their home, being able to be together. We desperately need each other. This last week, I had some friends of mine who chose to pray over me, and they had seen I've been struggling. And I have been. When my life purpose is to activate the unseen God-given potential in others, it's crucial that you're with others. And without that, I feel like sometimes that my purpose has been stressed or hindered. And so they had seen that I've been struggling, and they chose to pray over me. And I was thinking about this message this week because the timing of their prayer and the passage that we're going to see today truly only happens in God's wisdom. Today's passage reminds us as a church that God is still calling us to have this vision of building a community center in Mayfield, and that the needs of our community, they absolutely matter, and we have to be on mission every single day. We have to be chasing after this for the kingdom of God. And so I want us to see what we learned today in John chapter 5. We're going to watch this story kind of unfold. Maybe it's a smaller story that as you read through the Gospel of John, you would hit, but maybe not comprehend or slow down to take in. And something else I want to expose about today is that sometimes you need to read forward only to go back and understand more of what's happening. And that'll make sense in a moment. But John chapter 5, let's start in verse 1. It says, "After this, a Jewish festival took place, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. By the sheep gate in Jerusalem, there is a pool called Bethesda in Aramaic, which has 5 colonnades. Within these lay a large number of the disabled, blind, lame, and paralyzed. One man was there who had been disabled for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there, he realized he had already been there a long time and said to him, 'Do you want to get well?'" Verse 6, it says Jesus saw him. I was thinking about this interaction and how it even took place. And for Jesus to actually see this man means that Jesus had to go to the sheep gate. It means Jesus had to go to this place, right? Because it says the sheep gate here has these colonnades, and this is where the disabled joined together. The lame, the paralyzed, the blind, they were all there joined or huddling up beside this pool. And for Jesus to actually see this man means that Jesus had to go to the sheep gate. Over and over in Scripture, I see Jesus go to those in need rather than try to gather those in need. He goes to them. He goes to the person who's in need. He goes to the person who's hurting. He goes to the person who's paralyzed. He goes to the person who is in desperation. He goes to the person who needs him. And that's just who Jesus is. I think about the story in Luke 15 where it says that Jesus leaves the 99, and what happens? He goes to the one. He goes and chases after the one. That's absolutely who Jesus is. And this is This is such a key passage, such a key verse when I think about everything that's going on in the world right now. My D group, we were talking about how you could get on social media and you can see all these things that are going on. This passage, and really even verse 6, is so key for the world right now because it teaches the value of every human being. That Jesus goes to find the one in need, the one that has been rejected by society, the one that's been laid aside, the one that has been ostracized. He goes to find the one in need. I'm going to say this. I was asking for the team here to pray for me to that the Holy Spirit would restrict my words this morning because there's some fire burning. But I want to word it this way. Christians, I beg you to stop saying all the words and to start living it out, just like we see here. Jesus, his actions reflect the belief that there's value in every single human being. He didn't just say it, he lived it, he did it. And so here we see that he goes to even those who not only are in need, but have honestly been kind of rejected. And this is, in this particular story, Jesus goes to the sheep gate, to those who are disabled, blind, paralyzed, lame, all waiting for help. And even in those who have been rejected maybe by the community, Jesus finds the value and he goes to those in need. But not only that, when you actually learn about this particular man that has this interaction with Jesus, and this is where I said you got to read forward to almost come back and get the true depth of the story, because the more we learn about this man, the more we see the love of Jesus. Truthfully, this man was probably somebody we all would have written off. For instance, verse 14, it talks about how indicates that this man's sickness or his being paralyzed was actually a consequence caused by one of his sins. Let me say up front, that's not always the case. A few chapters later in John 9, we're going to see a boy born blind, and the Pharisees say, hey, who caused the sin? Him or his parents? Jesus says, neither. This is for my glory to be shown. That's not always the case, but for this particular man, for this particular situation, and Jesus indicates in verse 14 when he tells him, hey, go sin no more, or something worse might happen, what he's indicating is this consequence of your sin, I just healed you from it, don't go chase back into it. And so maybe you're thinking, like, running a scenario in your head, maybe last time I was sick, maybe I had caused sin, maybe it was sin there. Let me run some real life scenarios, because I was thinking through this, like, what would this look like maybe in our particular day? But it could be even someone as this man, paralyzed. Maybe he had a car wreck and it was because he was drunk. Drunkenness would be the sin, ultimately leading to the consequence of being paralyzed for his life. Why couldn't that be a real life scenario? You see, our sin has consequences. And sometimes those are real physical consequences. Sometimes those are spiritual consequences. But here in this scenario, verse 14 indicates that this is a physical consequence from this man's sin. And so in light of that, when it says that he's been there for 38 years, what happens is this man is actually probably older than you thought. When you read that, you're thinking, okay, he's 38 years old. He's been laying there. This guy's 38 years old. No, he's probably older than that. He actually was old enough that he committed a sin that led to this particular disability that he had and the consequence of his sin. So now this guy is actually much older. So when you read this now, this story, and you see what's taking place here, this guy's actually a grumpy old man. And when you look at verse 7, the way he responds to Jesus, that actually begins to show up. So Jesus sees him, he realizes he's been there a long time, and he says to him, do you want to get well? Right? Jesus is extending this help. He's saying, hey, I want to help you. Do you want to get well? Look at verse 7. Sir, the disabled man answered, I have no one to put me in the pool when the water is stirred up, but while I'm coming, someone goes down ahead of me. Picturing this guy now being older, being this grumpy old man, he ends up portraying this picture like, I can't even do this. I can't. Every time I try to get down there, there's somebody who beats me to it. He's angry at the world. He's angry at others because he's been there a long time and he's waiting. In essence, he's doing everything he feels like he can, and people are still jumping ahead of him. People are still robbing him. People are still hindering him. He's actually mad, it seems like, at the whole world. Later, after Jesus heals him, we're going to see that play out. Jesus heals this guy. He says, pick up your mat and walk. Later, as soon as that happens, he's walking, I guess, back through the town, and the Jews see him carrying his mat, and it's on the Sabbath. And so the Jews, that's against their law, and they're like, what are you doing? And he ends up blaming Jesus in that moment. Now, he doesn't say Jesus' name because he was so angry at the world that he didn't even get Jesus' name after he heals him. He didn't care enough about it. He was so complacent, he was so calloused over that Jesus heals him. He picks up his mat and he walks away. He doesn't even know Jesus' name. And then when the Jews see him and they're like, you can't be doing that on the Sabbath, he immediately blames Jesus. Says, well, there was the guy who healed me. He told me to pick up my mat and walk away. It's his fault. I'm blaming him. This guy is in the situation that he's in, caused by his own sin. He's grumpy and angry at the world. He's quick to blame others. And this is who Jesus chooses to heal. Man, this is who Jesus comes to. It really shows who God really is. He's a loving God that still cares about people like this. And when I say like this, what I mean is people like me and you, who sometimes we're angry at the world, who sometimes we want to blame other people, who sometimes we have consequences to our sin and we really just want them to be removed, and we are blaming everything else and everybody else. That's exactly who Jesus steps in, and Jesus comes to heal. There are a few things I want to point out about this story. The first one is, I have to admit, verse 7. Even though he's a grumpy old man who's angry at the world, man, verse 7 breaks my heart. Jesus comes to him and says, do you want to get well? And the man tells Jesus, I have no one. He's laying there by this pool. He's trying to get well. He's doing everything he knows to do. He just needs someone to help him get in the water. He just needs someone to help him do something that's so simple. Everybody else seems to be able to do it before he can even do it. Something so simple, so easy, yet he has no one. I wonder how many in our community would say the same. They have a simple need, something so easy for someone else to help out with, so easy for someone to step in. They literally just feel like they have no one. They have no one fighting for them. They have no one stepping in. They have no one praying for them. They have no one coming alongside saying, hey, how can I help? They have no one who even cares enough. Instead, this man for 38 years has been laying there beside this pool, and no one has helped him get in. How many people in our community would say that? That statement is gut-wrenching to me when I read that. I just wonder how many people I haven't noticed. How many people that I've been too distracted or too busy to actually notice and see and offer help, and that same person saying, man, I got no one. May we be that someone for the person who feels like they have no one. I want to say that again. May the church, especially here in Mayfield and Graves County, may we be that someone for the person who feels like they have no one. As you look at the outline of this passage, there was a few things I noted as I read through. So I read through the passage that I'm going to end up teaching. I read through it and read through it and read through it, and I try to make little outlines, and I try to just phrases that stand out, such as him saying, I have no one, or such as Jesus saw him and how that even played out. And so I always look at this outline and see these things. And I want you to look at the outline because it's truly an incredible guide as to how believers should interact within our community, okay? So here's kind of the outline of what takes place. Maybe you want to jot it down. Maybe you want to circle what you see. But the first one is Jesus sees the man. That's what happens first. Jesus goes to the sheep gate where there are people in need, and Jesus sees this man in need. And that's step one. You got to notice the people around you. You got to recognize the needs around you. You got to be aware. You got to have a kingdom mindset. You got to have a mission mindset. And Jesus goes and he sees the man in need. The second thing that happens is Jesus talks to him. Something so simple. Jesus has a conversation. You know what happens? Jesus asks him, he says, hey, do you want to get well? In other words, do you want me to help you? And the man says, I have no one to help me. I've been laying here. No one helped me. Everybody beats me in the pool, blah, blah. He's blaming others, but here's what really is happening. Jesus hears his story. He's listening to him, right? He says, hey, do you want my help? Hey, can I help you? In essence is what Jesus is saying. He notices him. He says, can I help you? He listens to the man's story, what's going on, what's happening, and then Jesus changes his life. How personal is our God? The fact that he even gets so intimate and personal with this guy, right? To even listen to his story, to know what's going on. He takes the time to go to the sheep gate. He actually sees the man in need. He talks to him, asking him if he needs help. He hears what's going on in his life. He has no one to help him, that somebody always beats him into the water. And Jesus steps in and becomes that someone that this man truly needs to change everything. Man, this is a great guide for us as believers trying to live out our faith in our community. May we notice those in need. May we have a conversation with them, ask them if they need help, listen to their story, and ultimately pray that Jesus would work through us to change their life. Now, while this is an incredible guide, right, and we could stop here and we could be like, yes, we need to be doing this, and I pray that ignites within you, like, Lord, help me notice those in need around me. Help me have that conversation. Help me to that you would work through me. Help me to hear their story and to actually care enough to listen to them. Yes, 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 yes. I don't want to leave off the next part either. Verse 15 and 16, I think it has to be mentioned as we're talking about this. Verse 15. The man went and reported to the Jews that it was Jesus who had made him well. Therefore the Jews began persecuting Jesus because he was doing these things on the Sabbath. Here's what I want you to understand, that it's kind of seeing the rest of this story. Not everyone is going to love the way you help others. That's just it. Not everyone's going to love it. Here Jesus is healing this guy. He heals him, yes, on the Sabbath. This guy takes his mat and walks away. The Jews are upset because Jesus has healed him on the Sabbath. The Jews had decided when and how a person could be helped. In essence, they had proclaimed what was normal and should happen, and Jesus heals on the Sabbath. That doesn't fit the way the Jews thought that somebody should be helped, or even when they should be helped. Not everyone's going to agree with, celebrate, love you, helping those in need. But just as we see Jesus in the story, do it anyway. And do it anyway. Not everybody's going to love what you're doing. Not everybody's going to agree with the way that maybe you're helping somebody in need. There's going to be people who are going to come along and say, man, I can't believe you would invite that person into your house. I can't believe you would go out of your way to do this. Why would you sacrifice this? Why would you do this? Do it anyway. That's what we see Jesus here in this story. He does it anyway. And do it in the way that Jesus shows us, right? Go to those in need. Acknowledge that you see them. Hear their story, and watch Jesus change their life. Now, we can hear this story and we can walk away and say, yes, Lord, would you do that? I've got some questions that I'd love for you to discuss there in your home, gathered with other people. Send this video to someone. Answer these questions, and may God use this to actually spur us to action instead of just words and thinking this is a really good story and this is a good idea and look at how great Jesus is. He's calling us to live like him, right? Think about even in Paul. Paul writes, be imitators of me as I imitate God. We need to be pursuing after Jesus and being like him in our community. And God is ultimately changing us day by day to be more and more like Jesus. And so as we see Jesus, how he interacts with this man, here are the questions I want you to answer there in your home and to think about. Question number 1. What is your biggest fear about serving those in need? What's your biggest fear? What's the thing that holds you back? Is it going to be the perception of others? Is it going to be the awkwardness if you don't know what to say? Is it going to be the moment that you say, I just don't even know how to connect with them. I've never been in that life situation. I haven't walked that road. Well, what's your biggest fear of serving those in need? Now I want to really connect it to our community. Where's the sheep gate in our community? Right, the sheep gate here had these 5 colonnades where it seems like those who were really desperate in need gathered, waiting to get into this pool. Where's the sheep gate in our community? Where is it that those who are in desperate need, really where they kind of are together, where we can maybe step into, where we can go to, where you can go to, and really help someone in need? Where's the sheep gate here in Mayfield and Graves County? Question number 3. What does this story teach us about God? You know, I always want our passages and our thoughts to be driven back to God, because he is the glory. He's the one that this story is all about. It's all pointing back to him and who he is and who we are in light of that and what he's done through Jesus and how we are to live in light of that. And so the question really I want to ask and have you spur deeper into is, what does this story teach us about God? Because it shows some huge truths about who God is and how he cares for people and how he interacts. And so I want you to kind of play that out there in your home. So what's your biggest fear about serving those in need? Where's the sheep gate in our community? And what does this story teach us about God? If we get the last one right, where we start thinking through what does it teach us about God, I pray that spurs us on to be able to live out question 1 and question 2 better as well, because he calls us to represent him well in this community. And I pray as believers, I pray as the church, that we would step into the needs in our community, never be afraid of them, that we would recognize them, that we would listen, that we would care, that we would value all human life, and that we would be able to step into those needs, and that we would be able, just like Jesus, to listen to their story and ultimately give them hope and watch God change their life. I pray that these questions spur a great conversation in your home, and ultimately that we begin to practice what we preach.
He